And I
How's it going,
can't
guys?
talk. Now I can. All right. Really good at muting myself and forgetting to unmute myself, maybe to the pleasure of some people. I don't know. But glad to have you with us as the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, they did it again, making us sweat it out on Christmas Eve day with another victory. This time over the New York Giants. Yes, once again, exactly right. Exactly right. It seems like it just does not ever fail. The Vikings in one score games in 2022. So, but Greg Joseph, how about that? 61 yards from Greg the Leg. I, for one, never doubted Greg Joseph. So, I don't know about the rest of you, but I always had faith in Greg Joseph. Never once thought about replacing him at the end of the season. I think he's a Hall of Famer. What do you guys think?
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, Greg
That's right.
Joseph kicks us in for a win. So, maybe bought himself a little more time. Maybe Greg's not gone at the end of the year. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah.
I thought that was
But
Justin
seriously
Tucker out
though,
there kicking.
let yeah, yeah. Well, let's be serious though for a second. In all sincerity, I obviously was being a little sarcastic there, if you couldn't tell. But is did anybody expect Greg Joseph to make that? Like,
No.
I was just expecting it to either be short for one, or obviously, go wide left or go wide right. But he nailed that thing, man. That was like right down the middle almost too. It looked like I hate the camera angles they use because it's hard to tell, especially with the white out. Which by the way, got my white on. It's not a Vikings shirt, but maybe that'll be for next time, next whiteout next year. But or maybe in the playoffs there'll be a whiteout. Who knows? But anyways, yeah, we got the Skol chant going on in the background with Tony there as he's celebrating Christmas. Come on, let's hear it, Tony. Let's hear it. You got you on mute there, I think.
We got the Skull chant and a Merry Christmas.
A Skol chant and a Merry Christmas. Let's go. Let's go. Or a
Yeah.
doink,
Well,
yeah.
I have to
Have been a
ask.
doink.
So I missed the. So I was actually in the kitchen trying to trying to help with the turkey. We had some sides going too, and I missed the call on how many yards that kick was. So how many yards was
61.
that?
61.
61.
61. Wow.
All-time record for a Vikings kicker too, by the way, and for
Wow.
him, obviously. So, yeah, it was funny because you saw the field goal target line, and I was just thinking to myself, "Oh boy, we're a little off there," but
Right.
obviously that target line is just based on their career long. So, but Greg Joseph, he did it. The Vikings did it. Holy cow, man! It just does not fail with this team. They just want to give us a heart attack. It seems like every week, even when it's the
Yeah.
holiday season. Come on, can we just get an easy win for Christmas here? But
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that is not happening. But appreciate everybody joining us here today. Go ahead and put your comments in. What do you think of the game? Um, let's talk overall thoughts quick on the game. Let's start with you, David. What were your overall takeaways from this game? One thing I'll maybe set you up with here is I thought the offense, for the most part, wasn't that great today. They made some big plays, and I know maybe that's a little bit of a cold take, but I don't know. I thought the defense played pretty well. I mean,
Right.
obviously, they give up a lot of yards like usual, but that's what we expect. But offensively, again, they did it when they needed to, but it seemed like there was a couple of different times in the game where the Vikings offense had opportunities to go up by 2 possessions and just were not able to do it. So, David, what were your takeaways?
I think the defense played okay today. I mean, there's a couple of 3 and outs they should have just got those guys off the field, and a couple of plays that they just a missed jump or a misstep to where they don't make the play, and it made Daniel Jones look really good. Didn't he have like over 300 yards today? And You can't have
And
that. You can't be letting everybody come to your, to your home field and just light you up for 300 yards. That's my biggest break on the defense. Like I see the tweaks, but it's still a work in progress.
yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know that when Carson and I did the kind of game preview, we had a guest on from the New York Giants, or a big New York Giants fan and podcaster. One of the things that I brought up is I had completely anticipated Daniel Jones coming in and putting up some yardage today because the game plan to face the Giants is you take away Saquon Barkley. You try to
Right.
make Daniel Jones beat you, and at the end of the day, he's gonna take what the defense is giving him. So I'm not surprised he had a decent chunk of yardage today. For the most part, I felt like we did do a good enough job with Saquon. Obviously, we had the big run towards the end. It's
Yeah.
just we sold out on the run and he found a hole and there was nobody on the back end. So
Right.
those plays happen. It is what it is. Obviously, I feel better talking about it in a win.
Right.
That's certainly a loss. But yeah, I mean, the defense is that's our liability right now. I mean,
Mhm.
the defense is a liability. If we lose games, it's going to be because the defense can't hold on long enough for our offense to figure it out, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I felt like the offense had its moments, but we also need to get some consistency.
Right.
I was joking around with my family while we were watching the game that you know we needed a big run or a nice little drive at the end of the third quarter. That's what I was looking for to really try to position us well for the win. And I kind of joked around with them. I said, "We're still not in the fourth quarter yet, so we can't play well, quite yet." And that is kind of the theme of this team. It's like, the second and the third quarters, we just kind of go back and sit on the couch and wait a little bit, and then it seems like in the fourth quarter we figure it out. So hopefully we can see that become a little more consistent. We see an end to that, but we keep winning games. We're stacking them up. So at this point, whatever they're doing certainly is generating wins. It just, man, I would love to see us go on a run. And in order for us to do that, we're going to have to do it, play well consistently.
Right.
It just feels inconsistent.
Mr. Blue Collar versus Harry Styles today. That's what the offensive matchup was for the Vikings, which, boy, you kind of think you could kind of see some similarities. We didn't really talk about that with Dash the other night. We should have mentioned that the Harry Styles comparison that Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Giants, made. But maybe a little bit in the look, but definitely I'm gonna guess Kevin O'Connell can't sing quite like Harry Styles. But that's another debate, but for another day. But
I mean, I don't know. He
I
might be able to pull off. He might be able to pull off some glittery pants. I'm not sure.
you, you never know. You never know. Um, but I will say one thing again that seems to continually pop up. They had so early in the game they had a 3rd down and 1. Kirk Cousins got a sneak, got a first down. Then after that, they had multiple like I think there was 2 third downs and maybe 1 4th down and 1. And again, we're taking these deep shots down the field. What are we doing? Like, it's
Yeah.
one thing if you're going to do it once or twice in a game, but it's like every week on these 4th and 3rd and 1s, we're taking these deep shots and then we just end up not converting. I'm just at the point, and I know I sound like Mike Zimmer type of guy where I'm like, you got to run the ball, but
Yeah,
it's
but the
like,
running game was dormant today.
yeah, I know that, but if you can't get a yard on a running play, it's like, come on, man, like that's just my thing and the Giants were bad against the run, statistically speaking, this season. So that also would tell me that there maybe needs to be a conversation with the running game. Like, what happened with that? Did the offensive line just not block very well? Was it not very good scheme for the offensive linemen today? I don't know. Or maybe the Giants made adjustments. I don't know. But those are some things that just kind of stuck out to me. Boy, oh boy, if either one of those interceptions would have happened, we could have been having a different
Yeah, right?
conversation today
Yeah,
too.
different conversation.
It's it's almost like if there is, I don't believe there's football gods, but if there were football gods, it's almost like the football gods just happened. You know, you got that interception. Like they didn't even say that it was a question on the second interception that hit the ground when we went to break. They just went to break, and then all of a sudden, it's like almost like the football gods are like, "Ah, see the ball hit the ground here. It's incomplete."
Yeah, yeah.
And the Vikings get the ball back, and so yeah, it's just so weird. This year is just so weird, unlike any other Vikings year, where you expect, okay, now here's their downfall. Here's their downfall. Here it comes. Here it comes. Nope. Nope.
Nope.
One play after another just keeps on happening throughout the game. Defensively, like you said, I know it wasn't great, David, but I think that's kind of what we're used to at this point, and really offensively too with the inconsistency. But defensively, for sure, the inconsistency remains something that I would just like to see it. You know, I honestly I wasn't too upset with the defense today, but I just it seems to me that the complementary football it just does not exist very well on this
Hmm.
team. Like when the defense does get a stop, the offense doesn't do anything. When the defense when the offense does score, then the defense allows a touchdown. So it's like, can we get a little bit more consistency? Can we get both sides feeding off of each other going into the postseason, which we just haven't seen much of that yet this year? Any thoughts from either of you on that?
I think with to piggyback what you said about the third and twos and the third and shorts, basically with them going down the field. I think what Kevin O'Connell is doing is he's actually giving the defense a look so he can go back to that same formation later in the game. Just like look at the situations where JJ was pretty much sliding open at the end of the game. Those are those similar looks that he gives when I just think he just says it's third and two. We're probably going to punt anyway if we don't get it. They just throw down the field and give them that look. But actuality with the running game, I think the running game is suffering without Gary Bradbury, which is weird to say.
Yeah. No,
you
you're
know,
no, you're right though, because that's the
yeah,
one thing. We can complain about Garrett Bradbury all we want, and for the last couple of years, rightfully so. But the one thing
yeah.
that Garrett Bradbury has done well throughout his career is run block.
Yeah, he's a great run blocker. And if you notice the past couple of games that Gary Bradbury hasn't been playing, Kevin O'Connell has thrown CJ Ham in there a whole lot more to give
Yeah.
the running backs a little bit more blocking. So I think that is kind of the reason why the running game has been suffering. I think Cook should stop dancing in the backfield. Like that's my this is my guy, but you gotta stop dancing in the backfield.
This is when you got the family trying to show their purple love back here.
Let's go. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's like you said, Carson. There's no compliment. Like I think when you have a defense that's pretty much bend or break, you need a consistent running game and a consistent offense that's not going three and out. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Too funny. Yeah, well, minus the floating Vikings hat that was behind me there for a second. I mean, I definitely agree with you guys. I think, and again, I think I said this last week. Who would have thought this year we'd be going, oh man, I really wish Bradbury was back.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
But
Right.
thank goodness we do. I mean, it really feels like this offensive line, I think with the addition of Darisaw this year,
Mhm.
or excuse me, last year, and then coming into year two, I just think we see much more cohesiveness with this offensive line. Probably getting some fresh set of eyes on these players. It did always make me wonder for years with this team why we struggled so much because it seemed like Spielman would draft these high value players, but then they never really seemed to develop the way we wanted. Either the guys that we drafted early, mid, or even the guys that felt like there was a lot of upside, but they were projects, in the late rounds, nobody seemed to develop. And that was always an interesting facet to me with this offensive line. And it feels like maybe, just maybe, it was coaching and actually
Yeah.
having comprehensive enough coaching, whatever you want to call it, to get these guys to where they need to be. Because look, they're not perfect, but this is a much better squad on this line than we've seen in I couldn't tell you how many years
Right.
in both on both sides of the coin, right? Passing and rushing plays, because I think we've had a decent line play in the run game for a while. But boy, we haven't had a serviceable pass blocking scheme, whatever you want to call it, for ages.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's time to end the TJ Hawkinson hate. Let's stop it right now. I keep seeing every game people are like, "Oh, Hawkinson's not that good," and all this. Stop it. He may
He's
drop
great.
something every now and then. He may, everybody drops a ball every now and then. Even Jefferson's dropped the ball before. Like,
Right.
let's just calm down. Like, oh, Jefferson dropped the ball. You better cut him now. No, come on. Let's
Yeah.
let's
These are
stop with the TJ
those are those
Hawkinson hate
slow
here.
weather fans who just they only look at ESPN or Fox Sports and they only see the highlights. They don't actually see what's
Yeah.
actually going on. They don't see TJ blocking downfield. They don't see none of that stuff. They just see what's on ESPN and the highlights. Think these guys are just going to go up and catch everything. Like I
Well,
don't.
what surprised me was, and again, I'm going to sound like the people you're just talking about, but I'm not saying cut them. I'm just pointing out the fact
Tony, are we going to
I
cut you?
was a little I was surprised to see a couple of Thielen drops today. That's just a guy I rarely see drop balls. So I mean, whatever. I'm not saying cut the guy, but I'm just bringing it up because I can. I'm
Cut him
stirring the
next
pot.
year.
If you find it, if you like, I mean, maybe every now and then you'll tweet out, okay, yeah, you would like to see him catch that. But if you are one of those people that needs to comment at somebody or send them an angry email saying you should have caught this ball, or
Oh yeah,
you're
yeah.
Yeah,
you're a person that needs to angrily get upset at somebody on social media, like adding them on social media, being like, okay, man, you should have caught that. Like, it's like,
that's those
or if
fantasy
there's even
footballers.
been people. What's that?
That's I think you get those kind of fans or people who do that is because they have everything wrapped around fantasy football. So that one
Yeah,
catch,
yeah,
that one catch might have not made won that game or won in the championship. So they don't really
yeah,
care about the whole dynamic of the game. This guy's not catching the ball when he get thrown to. That's what I think it
yeah.
is.
But if you're life threatening people because they drop the ball, like there's been people that I've seen, like even Blair Walsh when he missed that field goal in the Seattle playoff game, getting death threats. Come on, people, it's a game. Like, I love the Vikings, but I don't love them to the point where, and that's not really love at all. That's just being a terrible human. Yeah, just
Are you Carson? Are you ever saying
yeah,
you haven't seen a puppy that was so cute you just wanted to squeeze it?
yeah, yeah.
I'm just
That's
kidding.
right.
No,
Yeah,
I'm with you, and I'm still under the illusion that I'm gonna at some point interview players. So in my mind, I think, well, I better not say
yeah,
anything really bad about them, like to their face or add them on, Twitter, because then they might not
yeah,
want to be on my show that they'll probably never be on.
yeah.
I'm taking that
Well, the
back. You guys
only
come on the show.
that's right. Well, the only time, like, I'll criticize players, and honestly, I think most of the time when I say something about a player, like I'd like them to be able to make that throw, or I'd like them to be able to make that catch, or whatever. Like, that's one thing to say that, but it's another thing to go and threatening them, and then just like adding
Yeah.
them on social media, whatever. Like
Ridiculous.
that's just too far, man. That's
It's
just too
ridiculous.
far. And I will be the first one here to say that I will not make half of the catches that they make, or even probably an eighth of the catches that they make in the NFL, or make throws or whatever you want to put in there. So I will put myself into that category as well. But here's the thing: a lot of those guys, when they don't make those plays or when they miss an opportunity, they know it. Like, they're not upset
Right.
about it. Like, they're not upset at you for saying it, because they know it's true a lot of times, and they want to be better or whatever. But anyways, we're
Well,
we're spending a
Carson,
lot of time on that.
Carson,
But
before we move on
yeah,
to the next segment, which we should do, but I just want to make sure I'm really clear. So, not okay for me to send any sort of nasty grams to the players, but is it okay if I still send you the letters made with the little clippings from magazines? That's still okay for me to do?
I don't know.
I'm just
I don't
kidding.
know. Yeah.
No hate mail to Carson. Just send it to
No,
me.
no hate mail. All hate mail go to Tony Stegeman on Twitter.
That's right. That's
uh,
right. TikTok.
on TikTok too. Yeah, that's right. Um, but no, let's talk a little bit about any other things that you guys saw in this game in particular. I will I'll give a little bit of props to the opponent today. I was pretty impressed most of the game with Daniel Jones. And you know, it's easy to say against maybe the Vikings defense, but I thought he played pretty well, and I don't think he's worth 25 million. I know we were talking about that with Dash the other night, Tony, but I don't think he's worth that kind of money. But I will say I
No.
think he's a definite serviceable top 20 type of starter in this league. I think he's got that potential to be there. But anyways, what were your guys' thoughts on Daniel Jones or any other final thoughts before we get into our game balls here?
I think one of my things is with the offense, can Justin Jefferson consistently have a Robin to his Batman every game? What I'm saying is last game he went off and KJ went off. This game he went off and TJ went off. I want to see if every game going forward can JJ consistently do his thing and someone else pick up, the baggage, the rest of the baggage for him too. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest. Well, actually, before I even say anything, I thought of this before we went into this segment, and I want to say it now because I want to hear if you guys agree with me. Doesn't this game feel a lot like the Jets game?
Yes.
Where like it felt like the Jets did a lot, but see, they scored a lot of field goals, whereas the Vikings scored touchdowns, and then obviously ultimately we got the win in the end. But it felt a little like a little like that Jets game. I don't know if you guys had that same feeling or not.
You're just saying that because they're both New York teams.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Yeah,
I
Jets,
agree.
Giants, whatever.
No, I agree.
Yeah. It felt like that was my observation, kind of as the game was going. It was like, man, this really just feels like a carbon copy of that Jets game. But
Well, my
ultimately,
mom,
what I'm looking for the
shout out to my mom. I was at my parents' place for the first half of the game, and then came back to my place getting ready for Fan Express Line, and we have fun with my mom. We make fun of her a little bit sometimes, but we love her. And so she was mentioning during the game, she says something about, oh yeah, Buffalo, like we were playing Buffalo or something, just because the blue and whatever, and technically they are in the same state, New York,
Yeah.
but well, yeah, but we gave her grief for that, and then
not
she
in the
said
same
something
state
about
of mind,
the Jets.
Carson.
Yeah. So, yeah, she's. We love my mom, but sometimes we give her grief about that. It's not the Jets, not the Bills. It was the Giants.
Shout out to the moms.
That's right. Shout out to the moms. They make us who we are. That's right.
That's right.
Literally
easy,
and
Zach
figuratively.
Wilson. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, hey, Zach
Yeah.
Wilson's coming to let's talk about that before we get into our game balls. I want to talk about it because I know, David, you sent something to our
Yeah.
Instagram account.
Yeah, I did.
So I know
Yeah.
the Vikings want to potentially look at the future at quarterback going forward after this year. So would the Minnesota Vikings consider, or should they consider, bringing in Zach Wilson at quarterback next year? Supposedly there was a tweet by Don Kleiman, I think, or something like that. And he's a pretty verified Twitter man. And Twitter man. Yes, that's the first time that's probably ever been said. But anyways, he said that the Giants are now I'm getting confused. Thanks, Mom. The Jets are getting very restless with Zach Wilson, so maybe he could potentially be on the move this offseason. Former number 2 overall pick. could the Minnesota Vikings potentially be a suitor for Zach Wilson, who would more than likely get to sit under Kirk Cousins for at least 1 year, if not more, depending on how the Vikings want to proceed with Kirk going forward. But let's throw it to you, Tony, first. I think David's somewhat interested, but we'll get his thoughts after we hear from you first. What do you think about Zach Wilson as a Viking?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I don't I don't want Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson is I think he's damaged goods. Like I think that his confidence is probably so low at this point that I just don't think there's enough to recover. And I didn't see it enough when maybe the confidence was high either for me. So I get that he would be a project, and I don't think David would suggest, maybe you will, David, but I don't think anyone would think he'd come in and be the starter anyway, and I totally get that. For me, I just don't feel like it's worth. I honestly probably rather have stick with Mullins as a backup than a guy like
You
Zach
guys
Wilson.
just
Plus,
keep doubting Josh Rosen, the
yeah,
Rosen one,
well,
man. The
maybe Rosen too,
Rosen
but
one.
he's kind of the same thing. Where he came in the league, he's got some intangibles, but for whatever reason couldn't put it together, and then the confidence got beat to hell, and now they're kind of stuck in this hole. And I don't think there's enough. I just don't think there's enough there. And what I really didn't like about Wilson is it seemed like when the chips were down, he got a little mopey. He got a little, and that I don't know, man. I don't. I just don't. He rubs me the wrong way. I said this on a podcast earlier this week. Zach Wilson reminds me of lactose-free milk. Like it's milk, but is it really milk?
Is
So
it
I don't
really
know.
milk, right?
Sam Darnold 2.0, but actually worse than Sam Darnold
This is
because
not that
Sam Darnold's been playing pretty well, and they beat the Detroit Lions. The Carolina Panthers beat the Detroit Lions today. Wow.
Yeah, big
I don't
win
know
for
if I
big
want
win
to
for
play the
Carolina.
Panthers in the playoffs either.
My favorite part about
Let's.
Carolina is they're just like, let's fire the coach, let's get rid of all of our good players, and then let's go win the division.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, you know what? Let's give some credit to Steve Wilkes. He's doing an outstanding job right there for the Panthers, I think, with the defense, and their offense has been playing pretty decently when Sam Darnold came in. So maybe Sam Darnold deserves a little credit. What's that, David?
I said that's interesting with Steve Wilkes, and we're talking about Zach. We're talking about Zach Wilson and Josh Rosen. Steve Wilkes was the coach when they drafted Josh Rosen, and he only lasted 1 year at Arizona, and then they get rid of him and trade Rosen out, and they get Kingsbury, and they still haven't done anything.
Yep, exactly.
True.
But it was all Steve Wilkes' fault, though, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
Right.
But anyways,
Well, David,
let's hear your thoughts on.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Tony?
You got to sell me on Wilson. I'm waiting for it.
Okay,
That's right.
This is my thing, right? Okay, and it's a lot of intangibles. Hope you guys can follow me with it. All right. So the Vikings are 12-3, right? So that means the draft pick that they're going to get is not going to be a higher draft pick. So if they can keep this up, maybe this year and next year, they're going to be drafting at the bottom of the draft for the next couple of years if they continue to be a good team. Which all the top tier talent when it comes quarterback wise is at the top. The top 14 picks. If they can trade for Zach Wilson, maybe a third round pick, fourth round pick, and develop him behind Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins is not going to be here forever, and you still have to pay JJ. So you can let him develop in the background. And if we really feel that Kevin O'Connell is this, wizard with quarterbacks, the way he's making Kirk Cousins play, let's take a chance on, a number 2 draft pick who had all the intangibles in the world. I don't think he's done. He's only 23 years old. And from us being Viking fans, we see how Kirk Cousins suffered with a defensive-minded coach in Mike Zimmer, right? Zach Wilson has a defensive-minded coach in Saleh right now. So they're not really giving him the offensive coordinator or quarterback coach to actually put him in the right situations. I watched the game this week on Thursday with the Jets. They put some practice squad guy in, and all the guy did was run.
Chris Streveler, baby, go
All he did was scramble the whole game. So you can kind of
Chris
think
Streveler,
about
baby.
it. You can kind of think about it like if if Zach Wilson actually went to a team that can develop him and he can wait. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. What I'm saying is the Vikings, they are going to have to look for the next quarterback after Kirk Cousins. Why not turn over that stone? Third round pick, fourth round pick, whatever, or a player, and get that guy in your system and see what he actually can do.
So the one thing I will say, David, is that I actually had this conversation either was this week or last week with somebody, and I actually brought up the point that I hope that the Vikings, when they look to get another quarterback on the roster, I kind of hope they don't pick high, because I feel like over the last, let's say, like 5 to 8 years, and I'd love to see the statistics on this. I'm just going off of my gut, so I could be wrong here, but it feels like that there's almost there's a higher hit rate in the second or third round than there has been in the first round. It feels like, to me, it feels like there's been a lot of round one busts to almost like semi busts where guys last maybe 4 or 5 years and they're like a Daniel Jones. I don't know if I'd consider a Daniel Jones a bust, but is he great? Is he a franchise quarterback? I'd be hard pressed to make that leap too. So I feel like there's just a lot of guys in that first round. It seems like, again, recently, that are just great, but not, they're not a top tier, top five talent. Whereas I feel like you can almost find more of them, or maybe have a less of a risk with taking a guy in the second and potentially the third round,
Yeah,
or apparently last in the draft with Purdy.
I think the thing when it comes to the second round or second round or third round or first round
Christmas
picks or
spirit.
whatever, you don't necessarily get that fifth year option when they're a second round pick. So that means, let's say you do hit on a second round pick in the draft as a quarterback, you're going to have to pay him faster than you would do a first round pick. If you hit on a third round pick, you got to pay him even more faster, because the way the contracts are situated, when you draft a guy. So that's the reason why you get these teams, they draft a quarterback in the first round, because they're going to get that fifth year option, which is team control, and they can just, he's not making Jamarcus Russell money. So they can
Right.
kind of, build a team around them and move forward. But if the Vikings are picking, quarterback in the second round, let's say you do hit, that means he's going to get paid sooner than later.
To your point, Tony, I will say I think we have that impression that there's better quarterbacks in later rounds, because there's so many bad ones that have been taken in the first round, and
Yeah.
there are more quarterbacks taken, I would say, in the first round than any other round of the draft. So I think it's easier for those numbers to be maybe worse than the middle and late rounds. So that would be my guess. But there are definitely cases. I mean, Kirk Cousins, even, for crying out loud, a fourth round pick.
That's wrong pick.
Russell Wilson. There's a lot of other guys in there as well you can throw in there. But
Yeah.
I know.
guess what
I
I get
think we
worried
hear a
about-
lot more about the first round busts, where we don't hear so much about the quarterbacks that bust later on in the
Yeah.
draft either. So maybe that
Mond,
feeds into that a little bit too. But
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. Kellen Mond was a second rounder.
third.
Um,
Yeah,
was
third,
he?
Yep.
Was he third?
third.
Okay.
Third, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and I don't disagree with either of you. I think just what scares me as a Vikings fan is the last time that we actually tried to do this was Christian Ponder. And it felt like, because of where he was drafted, we hung on for so long. And I get that the Wilson deal is different. I think that's what David's point is that we don't necessarily have to commit ourselves as much as drafting a guy super high, as maybe you can see what you have in a guy that was previously drafted high. Totally get that. I think that's a totally valid point. You kick the tires, see what you got. But as far as drafting a guy, yeah, I do worry about that, because boy, I don't want to say like Ponder really burned us, because I think Adrian bailed him out most of those years, because those were prime Adrian years.
Yes.
But if we had a guy where we don't have the weapon, I mean, I love Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin's not going to be a Derrick Henry or an Adrian Peterson. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And Justin needs somebody to throw him the ball. You can have a floundering offense and still have some guys that put up big numbers, and then you can't win big games. So I just get worried about us getting stuck in that, because that sometimes takes 3-4 years for them to finally pull the plug. And boy, I don't want to go through a half a decade of that again.
Yeah, I think they can't afford that right now. That's why they got to turn. They got to look for a quarterback now for the future because you don't want to waste JJ's years with a Joe Blow quarterback. I mean, Cousins is great, so are you going to keep extending him? You can't afford to extend Kirk Cousins every year and have enough money to pay JJ and everything else. And now the offense is really going to look bad. And another thing that we're not even thinking about too, TJ has to get paid too because his contract is about to be up. So like the Vikings have to really get creative in trying to move the money around and trying to like have the quarterback for the next couple of years.
Well, that's
I
why,
think
David,
for
you
me
forget
it
that Lamar
depends.
Jackson's coming here. You didn't know about that?
I don't
Yeah,
want him. I
that's
love him,
right.
but I don't want
I'm kidding.
him.
Number 8 for number 8. Here we go.
There
Nah,
we go.
give me
Um,
Kirk. Give me Kirk any day. My dad is real big on the running quarterbacks and everything like that. And I tell him every year, I'm saying, look, he's not playing. All right, he's not playing. Look at Kyler
Yeah,
Murray. He's
yep.
great, but he's not playing. Kirk doesn't miss a game. I'll take Kirk any day.
yeah. There's something to be
Yep.
said for that.
What I will say about Zach Wilson is if you can buy low, like I mean really low, like I'm talking 5th round pick or lower to get him in here, maybe a 4th. I wouldn't go to a 3rd round pick for him. I think if you
Like
can
a
get a
McDouble low.
yeah, that's exactly right. We're talking
I'll give him.
McChicken double. Yeah, McDouble,
Yeah,
McChicken, all
that's right.
on the McDonald's value menu here. But I I would have real issues giving up more than a 4th round pick to get him in here, especially with the Vikings. By the way, don't have as much draft capital anymore coming
Mhm.
into this year, so that's something to keep in mind. But I will say, if you get an impact player, it doesn't really matter if you trade away the pick or not. You get an impact player, so that would have gone for an impact player, or at least what you would have hoped would have been an impact player, which is why I loved the TJ Hawkinson trade because you don't know if you're going to get an impact player in the 2nd or 3rd round. You know what TJ Hawkinson already is. You've seen
Right.
him play well. So that's why I love that trade and why I love trading at the trade deadline anyway. I love trades, by the way. Big Madden player. So that much you should know by now that that I should love trades if I'm a Madden player. I do it all the time. I would probably be a really bad NFL GM, but in Madden it works. Uh,
Yeah,
so, anyways,
if the fans need to know, I made the exclamation that I'm a Madden player, and David and I are currently David's ahead 1-0 in Madden, so he has bested me 1 game to 0. I will update everyone weekly unless he starts winning by a lot, and then I'm gonna stop coming in.
all right. Well, I might have to get a PS5 and join you guys here.
More the
That'll
merrier.
be fun. Maybe start a franchise here.
That's
But
right.
but
The Skol
anyways,
Purple
that's
franchise.
the Skol Purple franchise. Ooh,
Sounds
I
good.
like
Yeah,
that. We got to get that
yeah,
trademarked. We got to get this trademarked first. But
that's right. You're gonna have to cut that from the recording.
that's right. That's right. You did not hear any of this. Uh, game balls. Let's go. Let's get into game balls here. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to old Kirky boy, my first Kirk Cousins game ball today. 107.9 on the old quarterback rating today. Or no, this was the passer rating, I think. Maybe it's on ESPN, so I don't know. It's a rating. Uh, but 299 yards on 34, or no, yeah, 299 yards on three. Why is there? It says 299 at the top, and then it says 270 total. Did somebody else? I don't know what the deal is there, but anyways,
That's
6.2 yards per completion for Kirk, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, as it turns out, and
Yeah,
really
lucky on
nice
that.
day for Kirk Cousins. That's right, and did a really good job of spreading the ball around to Hawkinson and JJ today. So I'm going to give him his due. I'm going to say Kirk Cousins gets my game ball. today. We'll each give one. Let's go over to David for your game ball here.
My game ball goes to Matt Daniels, special teams coordinator. You
New
get a block
defensive coordinator next year.
maybe.
What do you think? I was thinking about doing a video of that before the special teams debacle last week, but anyways, continue.
You never know.
You never know. I'm giving him the game ball for the block punt, 61-yard field goal. Having Joseph ready, I think. Hey, that last punt, that right pinned them back into the game, even though it had an unfair bounce. Like the special teams today was kind of moving. So I mean, it's easy to give it to other guys. I want to give a shout out to the special teams today.
Yeah, it's a good pick. It's a good pick, and what helped erase a few of those suspect-looking punts he had earlier in the game. One of them he got bailed out because it took that crazy bounce
Hey,
at like
he
the
planned
20.
that roll. Let me tell you.
That's right. The bump and run. It was a little bump and
That's
run.
right. That's right.
Yeah, if I were to give a game ball, which is what we're doing, so I guess I am going to give a game ball.
Yeah, yeah.
I am
Give your
going
game
to
ball.
go.
Tony.
I'm going to go with Hawkinson. Yeah, I'm going to go with
State
Hawkinson
of Hawk.
because I feel like while there was a few of I think there were a few drops. Really, there was just one drop if I remember right. I felt like the other one that was in his hands. I mean, look, the defenders are going to make plays. So if it's a good defensive play, he knocks it out of his hands. It is what it is. I think it's those plays are going to happen. But boy, he took a lot of shots today. We never saw him get alligator arms. I don't know if you guys saw this, and I love Jefferson, and I hope he retires a Viking. But he got popped a couple times earlier today, and he had one pass late in the game where he would have gotten popped, and he got the old alligator arms coming across the middle. And but we never saw that from Hawkinson. So you just like to see a guy willing to, because being a tight end, you're going to have to take some hits,
Right.
and that's part of your job responsibilities is catching those balls over the middle when you're in a crowd. So love to see him battle. Big day for him. I just love the fact that he's on this team. I really do feel like that was a missing piece we had prior to him being on the roster. So it'll bode well for us as we continue on towards the playoffs here.
Yeah. So Matt Daniels, TJ Hawkinson, and Kirk Cousins are your game balls for this week. There you go. And I'm sure somebody would have given Justin Jefferson one had there been a fourth game ball to give. And after that, maybe Brian Asamoah could have gotten a game ball. Fumble recovery earlier in the game. I don't know the rest of the game, but I'm sure PFF will let us know soon how the rest of the game went for him or even how often he was in the game. But there you go. Game balls on the Fan Express line. How about a quick list of the week here, gentlemen? It is Christmas week here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say it's not gonna be food related this time, which I mean it could easily be because it's Christmas. But let's go with something different today. Let's go with Christmas movies. Let's go with Christmas movies as your list of the week. And I'm not. So I've seen some Christmas movies, but I'm not as big of a movie guru as some people probably on this show right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick my first one. And the one movie that I really liked as a kid, and I still like it today, it's maybe more of a little childish, which a lot of these Christmas movies are more childish, but we love them because that's what we grew up with for some of us. But Santa Claus with Tim Allen is one of my favorites, and I'm going to go ahead and take that before anybody else does. So, David, go ahead, take one here.
It's a Christmas list. I mean, there's not a list without a Christmas story. Okay, if you don't have a Christmas story,
such a good one.
Not a list at all. So I mean, that's like me and my sister's favorite Christmas movie, Christmas Story. So.
Yeah, you sniped me on that one. That's what I was gonna take, David. Yeah. Well, if that's your pick, then I'm gonna go with another one that's just filled with nostalgia, Home Alone. I
Okay.
feel like Home Alone's up there. We watched it so
Macaulay
many
Culkin.
times at Christmas. It's always on TV, right? So that's one where it
Even
just, when
in
you watch
July.
that movie, it feels like Christmas. It really does.
There was an argument that I saw recently that Home Alone is not a Christmas movie, but I will just hold on to that take for right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Erica agrees.
I
Home
saw
Alone.
another one where it said that they probably left Kevin on purpose, which, now that I'm a parent, I might agree with.
Yeah, well, and now with Macaulay Culkin these days, who knows? But
Who knows? I would have
um,
left him
Yeah, I bet he sets
that's
a lot
right.
of really good hobo traps. Yeah.
too.
That's right. That's right. So, um, I'm gonna go. I haven't actually seen this movie in a really long time, and I am throwing out movies that a lot of people are probably like, "Why are you throwing that out?" Just because like I said, I haven't seen a ton. I've seen The Christmas Story, um, but there's quite a few that you'd be surprised that I haven't seen. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw out the Polar Express as a Christmas movie,
Oh,
and
Polar Express. Huh?
I'm gonna. I know it's a very not usual pick for this type of thing, but that's where I'm going. So, David?
I like it.
Okay, you guys are gonna laugh at me about this one, and it's gonna be some controversy. Die Hard.
See, see, I don't get so hung up on that one. I think if it makes you think Christmas and it's always on. See, the funny thing is, I think that Die Hard is the one everybody points to, but here's a dark horse that nobody talks about. And
Okay.
this isn't my pick. This isn't my pick, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Jurassic Park, the first one. That is also always on TV on Christmas.
On Christmas.
Somewhere the original Jurassic Park is on.
Yeah,
So
but Die Hard had a Christmas party in it.
I know it did. It's probably more Christmas than dinosaurs. I get that. I'm just saying part of it is that it's always on Christmas. So no, I'm with you. I'm not going to fight you, David, is the point.
All right, Tony, your second one.
Ah, boy. Um, I am going to go with Elf because I just like
Hmm.
Elf. Elf's I think Elf's pretty elite. I like Will Ferrell. I think Will Ferrell's pretty funny. It does have some pretty good moments. I think my favorite scene is when he's eating dinner and obviously it's all this gobbledygook and they're looking at him funny and he's like, "What?" He's like, "This has the three main food groups: candy canes, candy corns, and syrup." So it's one of my dumb lines that I'll just say randomly, and then people look at me like I'm an idiot. So
So, I had two things come into my head for my final choice here. Is one was if you could put all the Christmas episodes of The Office into a movie, then I would take that. But because The Office, first of all, is fantastic, and the Christmas episodes are hilarious.
oh, they're
But
great.
I am going to go ahead and actually pick a movie because we did go with Christmas movies. So I am going to say How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey, another one of my childhood
Hmm.
favorites. And I know I'm showing my youth here because you guys probably grew up with that when you were not as obviously as young as I was. So, anyways, so those are my top three. Very probably unusual list and probably going to get some hate on it, but there it is. Erica's already given it to me here.
I
But
don't know, Jim Carrey kind of
that's my
scared the
pick.
hell out of me when I was a kid. I thought he looked
Yeah,
creepy.
right.
I didn't like
That's
it.
right. You go from the Cable
Yeah,
Man to Grinch.
I did not enjoy it. It's like a
All
hairy
right, David.
mask.
All right, my
That's
last
right.
movie would be Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, filmed in Minnesota. Jingle
That's
all the way.
that's that's a funny movie, especially being a dad and you got to get a kid that one toy and you just can't do it. Like that. That's one of those movies for me.
I like it. Well, I'm going to turn you guys on to a new movie if you haven't watched it. So it's going to be a little bit of a cop out because it is a sequel. But if you like the first one, I saw it and I really, really liked it, and I think it might crack my top five, which is A Christmas Story 2 which just came out. I think like
Really?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on HBO Max. There you
yeah.
go.
I really want to see Violent Night with David Harbour. I've heard that that's pretty good. It's
Oh,
when
sure.
Santa Claus basically goes rogue kind of thing, or where he's trying to save people or whatever. But anyways, looks really good. I've heard good things. I may have to go see it at some point, but
I'm about to go
definitely,
murder this
definitely would
turkey.
have. That's right. That's right. But um, David Harbour, Stranger Things, fantastic. But this is a Vikings podcast, so I will not go any further into my Stranger Things love here. So that is going to wrap things up, I think. Let's get to our final statements, gentlemen. I'm going to make a bold statement here. Maybe not so bold. I mean, they are 12-3 now. Just seems crazy to say. I thought this team was going to win 10 games. That was my expectation. They've already exceeded it, and there's 2 games left. Crazy. I'm going to say that this Minnesota Vikings team will be playing in the NFC Championship game. That is my final statement. I as much as I may see this team lose, I could see this team losing in the postseason early on, but there's just this belief that Kevin O'Connell has created amongst these players that whenever the tide turns, whenever things look bleak, when you're down 33-0, when you're down 17 points at Buffalo, it doesn't matter. You can come back. It's not over yet. It's not over until the clock hits 0. It's not over until the fat lady sings, whatever you want to say. And I just think that that's going to be enough to get this team to the NFC Championship game. And I just don't even want to really think about it beyond that point until we get
You
there.
have
But
the faith.
I have the faith. I do. I could also see this backfiring, and people will, record this clip and put it on when the Vikings lose in the first round of the Giants in a few weeks. So, but that's my final statement. Um, Tony, let's go for your final statement.
Sure. Well, here we are again. Obviously, another win. I mean, let's not breeze over the fact that this team has stacked up a boatload of wins this year. If you would have said, obviously, before the season started, this team's going to be 12-3 at this point, we'd all be elated. So I think it's great. And there are holes. Do I think that those holes are too big to circumvent, or are they big enough to circumvent the season where we couldn't, maybe make it to the Super Bowl? Maybe. But to your point, Carson, I think that this team has enough juice in them and enough confidence to carry them pretty far. I also see this team potentially making it to the NFC Championship game. Certainly at that point, we will reevaluate because you're going to be facing a very good team at that point, whoever we play. But I think the biggest thing, not to get so sentimental here on the podcast, is to wish everybody a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, however you're celebrating. And for any of you who have watched the Skol Purple podcast with us this year, thank you so much. We appreciate your support, and have fun with your families. Have fun enjoying the Vikings win. Skol.
All right, David, what do you got for your final statement?
My final statement is I think the offense is going to be scary in the playoffs. And why I'm saying scary is you're going to get Bradbury back, which is the running game should be a little bit better. And the guy no one's talking about is Irv Smith should be coming back soon. What are those 2 tight end sets are going to look like? You can't double JJ. I mean, you can't even triple JJ. He's going to catch it.
Are you telling me he's going to take Johnny Munt's spot?
Yeah.
No! I'm just kidding.
Not the
kidding.
monster.
Think about it, Carson. Johnny Munt. Who you'd rather have on the tight end screen, Johnny Munt or Irv Smith?
Oh, Johnny Munt all day. No. Irv Smith.
That's
Definitely
right.
Irv Smith.
I'm just saying. I think Kevin's in the kitchen right now cooking something up for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I can see them
Potentially
going.
could be huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be huge in the playoffs because
Kevin's the cook,
Irv-
not Dalvin.
exactly. I mean, if you can get Irv Smith a little bit healthy and look like he can't really guard TJ, you can't guard JJ, you can't guard KJ. So somebody has to be open. I think offenses are going to be scary in the playoffs. That's
And
just my
then
final.
don't forget, Adam Thielen is still a person as well.
He's still a human being.
Yeah.
That is correct, and he can still make plays every now and then, even though he only made one today, one for 6
Yeah.
yards. Almost
He's-
got beat in yardage by C.J. Ham today. One catch for 5 yards for C.J. Ham. So
At this point,
But,
if Thielen is not 100%, maybe you should shut him down for the next 2 games.
I think
have
that's
him
a good idea.
a
Just
little bit
don't have
healthy. I
Jalen
mean,
Rager running.
I was just
deep
about to
routes
say that.
or any
Oh.
routes.
I mean,
Yeah.
Jalen Miller, come on down. You can play a little bit.
Yeah,
You can be a third receiver or something. But I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, there's only 2 games left. Health is
Yo, Merry Christmas! Go,
Merry
Vikings!
Christmas!
Go!
there we go.
all right, guys. You guys have a good holiday, and I hope you guys are watching this Eagles game.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, I'm gonna be watching it right now, stuffing my face.
Appreciate it, everybody, for joining us. And as always, happy holidays, first of all. And as always, Skol.